All right, now we're going to do the same thing with fuel consumption. So I have 5 problems. We'll just go through them one by one. So problem number 1, calculating fuel consumption over a given time. An airplane burns 12 gallons of fuel per hour. How much fuel will be consumed in 3 hours? Well, rule of thumb would be like, well, okay, 3 hours times 12 per hour, so 3 times 12 is 36, which is, we know the right answer. But let's use the whiz wheel, right? So we set the fuel burn rate of 12 gallons per hour on the inner scale. All right, so we take the 60 and we put it up under the 12. Let's line it up as best as possible, 12. All right, now let's find 3 hours on the inner scale. So we have a 3 hours down here, and we read on the outer scale here what it is. So 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, so 35, 36. So 36 gallons. Okay, nice. It works out. Both the rule of thumb, the back of the napkin math or in your head math, plus actually using this whiz wheel. Okay, problem number 2, time to exhaust fuel supply. You have 60 gallons of fuel to burn at 10 gallons per hour. How long can you fly before running out of fuel? Again, rule of thumb, 60 gallons, 10 gallons per hour, 6 hours, right? No big deal, but we're going to use a whiz wheel. Set the fuel burn rate at 10 gallons per hour on the inner scale. So on the inner scale, we have 10 gallons per hour. That looks close enough. 10 gallons per hour on the inner scale. Find 60 gallons on the outer scale. So 60 is over here. Then on the inner scale, you'll see the time. This is 6 hours. That makes sense. There we go. All right, problem number 3. Calculating a fuel consumption for a given distance. You fly 250 nautical miles at 90 knots, burning 8 gallons of fuel per hour. How much fuel will you consume in the trip? And this is getting a little bit trickier because now we're doing kind of 2 sets of calculations. So we first need to set the speed of 90 on the inner scale here. There we go. Find 250 nautical miles on the outer scale. There's 250. Calculate the time, 2.78 hours. So this is going to be tough. 250 nautical miles on the inner scale. So we have 230. We have 3. Gosh, that is like right here. So they're saying 2.78, which is like, okay, yeah. I mean, you could say like half is like right here. So, all right. We'll say that. 2.78 hours. Set the fuel burn rate of 8 gallons per hour on the inner scale. So now we have 8 gallons per hour on the inner scale. We don't have an 8, but we have an 80. So we'll set that on the inner scale. And then find 2.78 hours on the outer scale, which is all the way down here. And now we're going to find on the inner scale here that 2.7 mark, which is like roughly here. And this is where we get on the outer scale the 22 point. On the written test, though, just to clarify, on the written test, they're going to give you, it'll be like multiple guess, multiple choice options. So they'll say 22.2 gallons or 28.4 gallons or 9.72 gallons. You know, so it'll be kind of easier and more obvious to understand which one you're looking at, or which one's going to be kind of close to the one that you're set. Now let's move on to problem number 4. Problem number 4, fuel consumption over distance. A plane is flying 400 statute miles at 120 miles per hour, burning 14 gallons per hour. How much fuel will be consumed? So we go down here to the solution. Set 120 on the outer scale. So we zoom in a little bit. There we go. Find 400 miles on the outer scale, which is all the way down here. Then determine the time. All right, so there's 3 hours. There's 3 hours and 30 minutes. So let's call it 3 hours 10, 3 hours 20. So 3 hours and 20 minutes or so is gonna take. All right. So now the next thing we do is set the fuel burn rate of 14 gallons per hour. So come over here to 14, fuel burn rate. There it is, 14. And then we need to find that 3 hours and 20 minutes on here. So 3 hours, 3 hours 10, 3 hours 20. And then we read the outer scale of how many gallons. So 45, 46, 46 and a half, 46.6, because it's a little past a half right there. And it says 46.6 gallons. Okay. Again, it's going to be a little bit easier on the test because they're going to give you like 46.6 or 48.2 or 43.7 as options. And so whatever is kind of close or mostly close to the actual answer that you come up with. Okay. All right. Now last problem. Determining a range based on fuel burn. If your aircraft burns 9 gallons per hour and you have 45 gallons of fuel, how far can you travel at 100 knots? So again, we're using multiple. So set the fuel burn rate at 9 gallons per hour. So we're going to go the rate 9 gallons per hour. The next thing we do is we find 45 gallons on the outer scale, which is all the way down here. And then on the inner scale, we determine time. So from 45 gallons, we have basically 5 hours worth of fuel. Okay. So at 5 hours worth of fuel, how far can we travel at 100 knots? So now it becomes the speed one. So set the speed at 100 knots. So right up here at the top, looks good. And we have 5 hours on the inner scale. Where'd that go? It's over here. So we can travel 500 nautical miles on this outer scale since it's under the 5. Okay. So sometimes you're going to have to do like multiple conversions. Like this is the last two problems were phenomenal in understanding that there's a gallons per hour time component with a time distance measurement component as well. So the FAA loves to make sure that you fully understand how to use the E6B flight computer. What I would advise is spend some time with the E6B flight computer performing your own functions to help solidify this understanding. Be sure to like and subscribe this video. If you want to learn more about helicopters, I have a free course on getting started with helicopters. I also have a course on how to pay for flight school, and I also have a course on getting your private helicopter license. I'd love to help you out. Links are all down in the description below.